Happy birthday to you. No, you're not going to have to hear my singing. Happy birthday though to Aramis. 60 years this year this fragrance was released. So yes, good morning. It is that time of the week again, of course, going out for my morning work, and the weather is not looking too good today. No, start of June, and now the nice weather's just been, and we're going to get more rain in the UK. But it's not about rain, it's not about weather. I always talk about the weather. That's a very British thing to do. We are talking about Aramis today. Yes, 60 years ago, Aramis was released. It's when England last won the World Cup, and the other important thing, it was the same year my mum and dad were born. And this is a fragrance that my dad has had many, many times, and that's kind of what I suppose got me into, well, part of what got me into fragrances. I always used to like this one, and I'm very glad to have it in my collection. I believe this is about the 4th bottle I've owned of it, the big 240ml fragrance here. So I'm going to put a little bit on. If you don't know the original Aramis, the whole point of today's video is I want to give you 10 reasons why I think this is a fantastic fragrance, just the original Aramis, and why I think you should consider getting it, because yeah, it's certainly not something that you'll get around in modern perfumery. It's certainly very, very different. There's an iconic leather note in this, prominent leather note. And to be honest, I think they've even trademarked it. It's that well known. But there's oak moss, there's sandalwood. There's all sorts of florals in this one as well. And it brings back many scent memories. As I said, my dad definitely took this one on holiday to the Caribbean, which doesn't seem like a sort of fragrance it would be for that. But because I know it and recognise it from that holiday, I do quite enjoy wearing this one on a summer's evening. So yeah, what we're going to do, we're going to go into the 10 reasons during my run today of why I think you should consider getting this old school retro fragrance. Aramis, you are good. Oh, it is a wet one this morning. I've already been out for about 20 minutes and I've just been trying to find the right moment to start doing my 10 points of why I think Aramis is so good. So I'm planning to do 4 on this run this morning. So the first one is just its uniqueness, its unique DNA. It's one of them. You could be someone who's owned 20, 30 fragrances or 300 and you will recognise what the original Aramis is. It's got a very unique DNA, and as I said, I believe they kind of called their leather recorder, their leather note, a special name, because in one of their newest releases, Aramis Intuition, which is actually a blue fragrance, they still put that leather record in, and it's a huge selling point of Aramis. I almost think this fragrance is so iconic and well known that people almost just say Aramis, almost, and just think of this fragrance. They don't think it's really a brand as such. You know, it's almost just something that the fragrance is called Aramis, and obviously it is, it's just Aramis Original Eau de Toilette. But they almost neglect the fact they have other lines, they've had other fragrances. I mentioned a few the other day. You had an Aramis Black, Voyager, Adventurer, Aramis 900. You know, there's absolutely loads out there. Havana, which is an even smokier version of this one in my opinion. There's so many out there, but this is the one that is Aramis. This is the thing, this is the fragrance that defines what this brand is. Very iconic, very smoky. Look, some people will say it's dated, but I think if you're someone who's into fragrances, someone who wants a fragrance collection, it's one that you just have to have in your collection because of its uniqueness, and it just stands out. And to be honest, that's why I've got it. Do I absolutely love it? No, look, I'm not a massive leather fan, and leather as an accord, it's something that it does feel fewer and fewer people are wearing it. Let's say there's reports that say more people are turning towards leather, but it's not leather on this kind. It's not that smoky leather that this really is. It's an alpha male type scent. If you're someone who wants a macho fragrance, this is the one. It stands out, it's unique, and I absolutely love it. I think it's a really important part of my fragrance collection, purely just for that uniqueness. Okay, so on to positive number 2, and this is one that I personally, for people that like big bottle sizes, this is something I appreciate, and it's extra juice. Yes, let's be honest, the most popular sort of bottle sizes you get out there tend to be 30ml, 50ml, the odd 75ml and 100ml. As far as I'm aware, Aramis comes in 2 bottle sizes, 110ml and 240ml. And what I like with that is they're basically giving you, if you're a fan of these fragrances, that bit of extra juice. I'm always someone who doesn't like it when there's a bottle that's, say, 90ml. Give me that extra 10ml, charge me a couple more pounds, give me 100ml. I like the fact they have these slightly extra bottle or bigger bottles that give you that extra juice. And look, am I going to get through it really quickly? No. But for me, I appreciate that fragrances don't go off as fast as people may let you believe. You know, I've had some that have been in my collection, well, I know my brother definitely has, that have almost been in his collection for 10 years, and they're fine. As long as you store them correctly and you're not putting them in the wrong place, you know, then this is fine. And because it's not quite as strong as it used to be, this Aramis fragrance, you can spray that a little bit more. And if you want it for those dress-up occasions, or if you want it again in situations where you just want to be a bit more serious, a bit more grown-up, maybe even a job interview, this one's perfect. It gives you that extra juice, and it's always there when you need it. And yeah, I appreciate that. I like the extra juice. For some people that might be a negative, but for me, as someone who buys a lot of 100ml bottles, that extra 10ml doesn't go unnoticed for me. If one was 100ml of a fragrance and the other was 110, and it was two fragrances I liked the same, I'd be picking this one. And that's why I do like it. Extra juice, and yeah, certainly one that's going to stay in my collection for a bit longer as a result. Okay, so on to positive number 3, and I don't think many people can argue too much about this one. This is value for money. Now, you could say, look, if you don't like it, of course, £20 for 110ml, you're going to feel ripped off, or you're not going to feel like you spent your money wisely. But I remember when I first had this fragrance, or when my dad was first owning it, it's barely gone up in price. I think 10 years ago, I think I could get it for around £18. So it's maybe gone up £1 or £2, which is nowhere near as much as some things have jumped, certain fragrances and certain things, because of the cost of living. Aramis has stayed pretty true to its price range. £20 for a scent that I think it smells easily a £50-60 fragrance. When you're looking at this genre of scent, high smoky leather fragrances, they're not always that easy to pull off. But this one is really, really high quality, and it does smell like a James Bond scent. I always say it's like a Sean Connery fragrance, an old James Bond, alpha male, certainly more dress-up occasions, suit and tie. And normally when you're thinking of suit and tie fragrances, you're thinking maybe £100-200 at least. You know, I always think of Tom Ford fragrances now. You know, I love Fabulous by Tom Ford for those dress-up occasions. Lost Cherry, Tobacco Beanie, anything like that in that genre. You know, you're going to be paying nearer £300. So to pay £20 for a scent that you can wear in those same situations, of course, very different fragrances. This one's certainly more old school. It's great. It's really, really good. And the fact it's still around after 60 years shows you that people are still buying it. And yeah, I think the fact that maybe people are still buying it is why the price stays down. Estee Lauder, which is the brand that still make the Aramis fragrances, they're obviously producing it en masse. And yeah, I think that's a big positive. Okay, and point number 4, the last thing I'm going to do on my run before this next wave of rain comes, is it's available online and in store. As I touched upon earlier, a shop local to me called Savers, they do a lot of fragrances on sale, and I was quite amazed to see it was in there for £20 the other day. But what's quite interesting with a lot of these scents, I've even seen dupe in Sports Direct, and I saw Obsession in Savers as well yesterday. A lot of these old school retro scents are just as readily available on the shelves as some of the more modern ones, and I think that's great. It means that they're not, you know, they're obviously doing quite well for sales. All these shops wouldn't stock it, and I'm a big fan of shops having fragrances as well. You know, when people sort of look at the positives of buying online, one of the biggest positives is it tends to be cheaper. I've bought many fragrances online that I've seen in a shop, and I've saved about £50 and £60 because I've got them on a website instead. But the one thing you obviously don't normally get is if you try a new fragrance and you buy it online, you don't tend to go in and know what you've got. You might have relied on Fragrantia to get an idea of the smell, and then when you get it, you go, oh, a bit disappointed, but I'm not going to send it back because, you know, all the faffing with postage. Whereas if you can try fragrances in shops, where I've seen Aramis on many occasions, they may have a tester you can spray it to see if you like it. If you have an issue with it, you can probably take it back and get a receipt, and you know where it's been stored. You know it's been stored. I mean, I've bought many fragrances online where they've been, you know, previously opened, previously sprayed, and as we said earlier, you don't know how they've been stored. They might have been stored in the shower, they may have been altered in some ways. You know, who knows that it's actually not a clone and they've stuck it in an Aramis bottle. Whereas, you know, with this one, you know exactly where it's been, you know it's going to be more safe, more reliable, and you get to try it first before you buy. And the fact you can get Aramis in a shop means you don't have to wait 3 or 4 days. If you really want it now, you can get it. And honestly, if you go to your local high street and there's a fragrance shop in there, I think there's a good chance you'll find an Aramis and other retro fragrances alongside it. So yeah, big positive for me. I like the fact you've got that flexibility of options where you can get Aramis in store and online. That is good. Coffee was very much needed. The rain actually did stop, but it looks like it might just start again, just as I leave for the gym. So let's get the next 2 points. Why I think Aramis is a great fragrance out now. So I don't want to try and sort of copy some of the other things that I've said in why Terre d'Hermès is so good, or why Parodi is the best note in perfumery. But of course, there is certain criteria where you just have to go, well, that is what makes an amazing fragrance, and those facts are the same. There's one thing I really do like about this one, and it's actually that it caters for the older generation. So that's probably being a bit stereotypical, but in general, an older person is going to rock this fragrance. And if you look at modern releases, how many really do that? How many are really looking at the older gentlemen, particularly cheapy fragrances? They're not really. We're going into this sweeter, gourmand sort of era, blue fragrances, and I feel like this is one that really still is looking after that older generation. Look, we know that obviously the big sellers are those more blue fragrances now, but the fact this one is still here to stay essentially at the moment, I can't see it changing anytime soon, which is another plus, but I'm not going to put that in my 10 today. I think it's a good sign. It shows that they still care about those older generations that maybe like this one for those nostalgia reasons. So I do think that is a good thing. I think it's nice that you still get those old school scents and those retro fragrances, and this is probably number one when I think of an old school masculine scent, which some people still like, and I do appreciate. Okay, and on to the next one, and this is a little bit of a, I'll probably say it's almost a negative, but I'm trying to make it sound as a positive. But it's amazing in other products. Essentially, it's amazing for layering. And what I mean by this, and this is where I'm sort of talking about the con, you used to be able to get this Aramis soap, and it was called Soap on a Rope, and it was literally just the smell of Aramis with soap on a rope. Very simple. It was a nice, really nice product, really nice gifting product, which I actually had it as well. But what I like with Aramis, and obviously I've got it here on me now, I'm just going to spray a bit again. It's not one of those scents that you think would be nice as a shower gel or even like a shaving cream. Or I've had it as an underarm deodorant stick as well. And actually, it's really pleasant in all those other products. I said this before with some Lush products. Strawberry Fills Forever is probably a good example here. I've got this one on me. It's a really nice product, but it feels to me like it's nicer as a shower gel than a fragrance. And it doesn't maybe... I don't know, it doesn't convert over to being a fragrance, so it's a little bit too sweet, a little bit too sickly, and that's fine for a shower gel, but for the sort of what I wanted for, it's not. This one I think works in many different products, and that's what I really like about it. Maybe because the DNA is a little bit more iconic, but I've had it as a soap on a rope. If you can still find it, you can still get rare vintage ones on eBay of it. Obviously as a fragrance, it's lovely, but also shower gel, underarms or deodorants, it works just as well, and that's why I like it. It's got that real versatility, maybe not as in terms of uses as a fragrance, but actually as a product itself. So I think that's a big positive, and I hope they bring that one back because I was a big fan of it. British weather, I've literally just put my hood on because it started raining, and then 2 seconds later the sun has come out. I need to stop moaning about the weather on these videos and just talk about the fragrances, and we're going to go on to point number 7 now, the next positive of Aramis, and probably one of the main ones for me is that this fragrance doesn't make the other ones in the Aramis line redundant. And what I mean by that is that one of my favourite brands, well probably my favourite brand, is Acqua di Parma, and obviously they have Blue Mediterraneo lines, they have Cologne lines, and I love a lot of their Cologne line, in particular Cologne Club, Cologne Essenza, Cologne Pura, just the original Cologne, Cologne Intensa. There's so many, and they do all have different nuances, but ultimately they can all be used for the same purpose. And in recent times I've had Cologne Pura and Cologne Essenza at the same time, and while they smell different, Essenza's more focused on neroli, Pura's got kind of more of a peppery ozonic smell. You're only going to wear them in the same situation, or mainly in the same situations, which is, you know, high-end, maybe dress-up office situations, and in the summer, because they are obviously more suited towards those, yeah, they're citrus-based fragrances. Aramis is slightly different, you know, they don't particularly have flankers of this one. I mean, they did an Aramis special blend, which was a very similar bottle, but that one's built more on spices, whereas this one goes into more smoky realms. It had a more modern interpretation. But then I've had Aramis Devon, which is like this nice, almost dirty orange smell, doesn't smell like this one at all. Aramis 900, which I don't think you can actually get anymore, but that was a real strong floral scent, really nice. Havana's certainly more smoky, not a big fan of that one, but it's very smoky if you want someone who prefers that kind of almost bonfire type smell. So there's real variation within their scent. Voyager was yeah, an interesting scent, a very, very interesting scent. Adventurer, though, was another one I absolutely loved. That was more like a sea salt. Had seaweed, I think, as a note in that. So what I'm saying is you could almost just shop at Aramis and have, you know, that whole line and not need another brand. And I think that's great. That's what I really like about it. And again, they're all around that similar price range. They also had Aramis Black. See, there's so many that are just coming up in my mind that are so unique. I believe they had a boozy note in it, which again, I was gutted I never got that one as well. But it kind of, what I'm trying to say is it doesn't make the original redundant, or the original fragrance, the OG fragrance, doesn't make the other ones redundant. I think probably the main reason some of these have been discontinued is just because this original Aramis is so popular, so well liked, that any change from it is almost seen as a negative from those who are so loyal to that original scent. But it's great, you know, some of those other scents have been so underrated, so if you can still get your nose on some of them, particularly like the 900 scent, please try them, because they're brilliant. They're so different, they're so unique, and you won't forget them. They'll stand out in front of a crowd. Okay, so going on to positive number 8 is it does actually last. Yes, the longevity on this is very good. Now, you're never going to please everyone, and we all have different perceptions of what is weak and what is strong, and some people have more sensitivities to certain notes than others. But there's been a lot of talk about Aramis, and a lot of retro scents in particular, is that they're not as strong as they used to be. Those people who absolutely loved Aramis will tell you now it's been watered down, and look, they may be true. In some cases, I think that is true. Does that mean, though, that this fragrance doesn't have good longevity? No, it will still get you through most of the day. If you're not getting too hot and bothered, if you're wearing this in the situations where you're probably meant to, in like a climate-controlled office environment on a cool day, it's not going to, you know, wear off your skin, or if you spray it on your clothing, it's not going to go too far wrong. You know, I've sprayed this in my car before, and obviously on a shift 6-7 hours later, and I've come in my car and I can still smell it, and it's very pleasant, so it will stick around. Other people may say this is a bad thing. Some people say this one is too strong. If you go off fragrance, you're going to get two very, very different interpretations. But the thing for me, and I'll always say this, if you're someone who likes this scent, you've got to like this scent first of all. But with any fragrance, if you're someone who likes a fragrance, the first thing I always wanted to do is actually be able to smell it. You know, I've never understood why you'd want a fragrance that only lasts 1 or 2 hours, or you can barely detect it at all. Never been a fan of that, and this is why I've always personally, again, it's just my own experience. Would I overspray this one? No. But this idea that you should only spray yourself once or twice, I don't think it's true. I think, you know, spray obviously as much as you want, but for me, I spray, for instance, a minimum of 5 or 10 sprays, and I find with Aramis that's absolutely fine with this one. It's not really smoky heavy, there's a lot more complexity to this one, and it'll get you through the day, you know. So you do have those bigger bottle sizes which will make it hard to travel and carry with you, but with this one you don't need to worry about putting it in your bag necessarily. Just spray a little bit more and it'll certainly get you through your shift. Well, the weather has certainly improved from when I did the first few rounds on my run this morning, which means it's the perfect time to do the final 2 rounds, the final 2 positives of why I think Aramis is a fantastic fragrance. And look, this one's probably not going to matter to a lot of people, and for me even personally, it doesn't matter too much, but when it comes to gifting, it does. And that's the packaging, but the packaging as well, beyond that, does really represent what this fragrance is. If you've ever seen the box, it's one of my favourite actual boxes of fragrance. It's kind of got this safari leather tortoiseshell kind of design. It just looks really nice. It does scream old gentleman leather jacket. And then when you see the bottle, I think it also does that as well. Look, there's no frills with this bottle, there's no bright colours or silly gimmicky shapes of like a bear or a lion or anything like that. It's just got a gold lid, which is cheap and plastic, but it's got nice gold branding on it. And yeah, I think what this fragrance is it sells itself on its scent. It doesn't need to be flashy. It's not a flashy type of fragrance. It's an old school gentlemanly scent, and you can get that from the packaging and from the bottle itself. And yeah, I think it's one of those that if you're someone who collects bottles, which I know some people do, it's a nice one on your shelf. Again, no frills, but it defines the fragrance perfectly. Okay, and on to the final positive, and I think this is fair to say it has respect. It definitely has respect. You don't have to love this one. Some people might just go, do you know what, it's not my favourite scent, but it's a fragrance of its time. And of course, other people who love it will say it's an all-time classic, and it is timeless. If I had to compare Aramis as a fragrance to a person, it kind of reminds me of your local town mayor or your local councillor who's always served this community really well for the last 40, 50 years. Look, he's never been the life and soul of the party. He's never been the most flashy person in the world, or the most humorous person in the world, but he's got the respect. He's always tried to do the right thing, and I think that's what Aramis kind of is. It's a scent of its time. Even if you're someone who goes, do you know what, I don't like it, I think you can appreciate this one. Again, I've said this with retro fragrances. Is Aramis my favourite scent? No. Is it the biggest compliment getting scent in the world? No. Would I wear it on a date right now? No. But do I think back in 50, 60 years ago that would have been suitable? Yes. Does that mean it's bad today and you can't wear it today? Of course it doesn't. You can still rock this one and wear it for any situation. It can be your signature scent. If you're someone who's like this, it's still got that nostalgia about it. It's still good. It's maybe just a little bit in the past. As I said, you might have that older gentleman who's a local mayor or something who may not be as you know, up to date with the modern ideas and modern social media, but he still tries to do the right thing in the best way he can. And that's why I think Aramis is. It's still a very respectable scent. It still serves a purpose for some people, and that it may not be as popular as it used to be, but you can appreciate it, and I definitely appreciate it. I think it's still one of the best retro fragrances out there. And that is it for today. So yes, we've given 10 reasons of why I think Aramis is so good on its 60th year, 60th birthday. And yeah, let me know what you think of Aramis. Have you owned this one? Have I sold it to you, you know, with the points I've made today, if you've not owned it before? Or are you someone who really just doesn't like it? You've never got used to it, but maybe you still appreciate it at the same time. Look, is it one that I'm going to constantly have in my collection? No. But that, I think the main positive I probably want to get across today, it is unique. It's so recognised. That leather note that's in this, I've not detected anywhere else. Again, you could put 1,000 fragrances in front of me, I'll be able to tell you which one is Aramis. It's got that uniqueness, and I think we're losing that in a lot of sense now. A lot of gourmand fragrances, sweet vanillic fragrances, they've almost become a bit of a muchness, and the same with blue fragrances as well. This has got character, this has got personality. Yes, it's a bit dated, but I think it's more timeless than anything else. You know, as I said, 60 years old. Do I think it could still be around in 40 years? I hope so, but of course, those people who may have worn it when they were younger now, of course they would be a little bit older at that time, and maybe the younger people who will be a little bit older come that 40 years time from now will probably be more into those blue fragrances because they never grew up with Aramis. But for me, this is a timeless scent. It's a fantastic fragrance, and I really hope it is still around for many years to come. And that's the thing, at the moment there's no sign of Aramis, the original Aramis, going anywhere anytime soon. But I do recommend, if you've never tried this one, I think at some point, if you're into fragrances, it's definitely worth a try, definitely worth a sniff. And look, again, even if you don't like it, I think you'll certainly respect what it was, because yeah, you don't get things like Aramis today. You do not get many scents that smell like this now, and it's a great brand. As I said, there's many other fragrances in that brand, and I'd like to try their blue one. If anyone's tried Aramis Intuition, which is their kind of new modern blue fragrance, let me know, because I've been very impressed with all of the scents I've had from there. And yeah, so I definitely will try it at some point. I'm sure if I get the chance to, I definitely will. But if you haven't tried the original Aramis, try that one first. Thanks for watching. Catch you later.